Oh, okay, there we go. So I'm doing a little bit of cleaning up, trying to get a few things settled here. I know people don't show up for another couple minutes, but I need to get everything started. I'm a little behind today. Just finished cooking dinner. I actually made some tenderized chicken and with some sauce and noodles and mushrooms. I mean, some onion. But I was behind, so I wound up prepping all that and doing all that as quickly as I could, and then scarfing it down as fast as I could. So I'm just kind of rushing to get everything finished. Oops, let me go ahead and kind of do a little bit of adjusting here. So for anybody coming in, this is what we're working on today. We're hopefully going to get this pretty close to finished. I did a little bit more work on it while I was waiting. Usually I don't have time to do a whole heck of a lot of different things to the live projects. More often than not, my Mondays, I finish everything off camera, get really close, and then kind of finish it off. And then for the Weird Wednesday stuff, I wind up doing pretty much all of it directly on camera. I just never seem to have time between Wednesdays to finish off any of these things. Well, today I managed to get just a little bit extra done. Working on a bunch of commissions for a bunch of mice. I've actually got a small way to organize that now. So I've been putting all my unfinished mice into a box. I've got 3 packed in here. I've got 3 packed in here. So I'm just kind of working through the process of getting a little bit more organized as I work. But for the mushroom slug, which hopefully, like I said, hopefully we'll finish today. Where did I put my piece? I did a little bit more work. I put the eyes on. I sewed the mouth closed. And I did a couple other little things. I designed these little legs, which... they're kind of placeholders to begin with, but they look cute at the same time. Hey, Hamburger. So I believe I recognize that name. Oh. Try not to hit accidental buttons. Good evening. Sorry about that, Hamburger. I was looking away completely. I'm trying to get everything set up. Like I said, I'm so far behind. I feel so silly. So these are kind of placeholder legs. I like them, but I'm thinking that I might need to do something more with them. And the detail might be that I add something to the bottom maybe. But I actually made one to test. And I think it looks really cute. I think it'll work. So we're going to build a few more of these. We're going to attach them to see how it looks. I did put the eyes on. I actually really like the multiple eyes. I think that somehow or another makes it seem more alien and more fungal. So I thought that was really neat. And then I sewed the mouth together. So we actually have a mouth. Additionally, I made one test tentacle so I can see if this size will work. And I've got a few different colors over here that we're going to look at to see what we like the most. So we're going to use the brown for the legs because I think that's kind of what we discussed the last time. Making sure I don't miss anything. So what tends to happen is I miss messages because I'm somewhere between rambling on, I'm sewing on the stuff since I'm looking way over here. But my camera is like only an inch away from me sometimes, so it's hard for me to tell when I get a message. I think I could set it to alerting me if I had a computer as well, but I don't. I'm using exactly what I've got, and I'm okay with that. It just means I have to scroll sometimes to see if there's any messages. All right, so let's see. We add the eye. Let's see, I talked about this. We've got my thread hooked up. I am ready to go on that. I think what I will do is I'm going to go ahead and start sewing a couple more legs. That way I can give everyone a little bit of time. Then we can ask for some opinions. So I know you're here, Hamburger. If you have any thoughts on this, I'm going to go ahead and show you since you're here early. I've got 4 different colors to consider for these tentacles. So I'm going to show you one more time. That's what we're looking towards. Just a whole mass of tentacles coming out of the mouth. Might even do different colors. Like at the center of the mouth, do one color, and then the outside, do another color. But I've got brown. I like this thickness. I'm going to do a few this size, and I can always adjust it later. Maybe what I'll do is put the big ones on the inside or the outside and vice versa. But then I just dropped that, and now I've got to find it. It just blended right into the material that I had in my lap. Where did it go? It completely vanished. Well, it got caught by my stand. Okay, so I got the brown. I've got the same cream as the rest of the body. I've also got a pink, which was one of the colors I was considering for a little while because I thought it'd be neat to have different colors on the inside and outside. But I also have this kind of flesh tone color, which looks really cute. I think will work really well with this. And if it doesn't work with this one, it could be something that I use on one of the others. But I haven't used this material before. I actually got this because somebody ordered a bust. They wanted a top-heavy chest, and I was going to use this, but I never got around to finishing that. So what I'm going to do is use some of this maybe for the mouth here. So if you have any thoughts, let me know. You got cream, pink, we've got peach, and then we got brown. So anybody who's stopping by, these are going to be the tentacle color options. I'm trying to rearrange everything so you can see what I'm doing. And what I'm going to wind up doing for the beginning of this is I'm going to go ahead and start off by sewing up some of the legs. Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry about that. That's the butter, right? Okay, yeah. So I made dinner, and my wife is working on her diet, and I'm working on doing better with it as well. But the chicken I made, while delicious, was a little bit salty. So I have to make some adjustments to how I make some stuff. And I didn't even add salt, but I did add a little bit of soy sauce. And by a little bit, I do mean little bit. Like maybe 2 tablespoons was overestimating it.
I'm pretty sure the meat comes nowadays.
It's probable too. Plus the butter, of course. So a lot of things could have added up to that. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut some feet. I'm going to scroll back just a little bit to see if you mentioned anything hamburger. All right, I like the fleshy one. Cool. That's kind of what I was really thinking. Once I saw that, I really liked the idea of using it, but I kind of thought it'd be neat to get a second opinion and find out what you guys thought too. So right now, we're gonna use this as the original template. I'm probably gonna make a couple more of these and then do the flesh color because I'm thinking to look really neat if give me a second, I'm actually grabbing it. The kind of fleshy peach was on the inside and this was on the outside. It would almost make it look like older tentacles and younger tentacles, like it's kind of continuously growing out. So while we're working on that, I'm going to go ahead and let's see if I can keep you here. That's what we're working on. And I'm trying to situate everything so that it can all be seen, but so that I can also see the screen as well. So if you guys see somebody say something, let me know. Just kind of send me another couple messages. And basically, I will scroll back up. I will see if I missed anything else. And I got my pattern here. Oh, no, that's the wrong pattern. All right, here we go. So I've got my slug mushroom pattern now. So what we've been doing for the past couple weeks, maybe about 3 weeks, if not longer, I have been working on building this little guy. I had a sketch for him, and I had these ideas like forever ago. Just kind of randomly came up with the idea. And I can't tell you where these things come from. Some of my ideas really do come in dreams. Some of them really do come from seeing other things. And it's kind of funny to me. Oops, let me see what direction I want to go. That people expect there to be specific ideas that my things come from. Like, where did this come? Where did you see that? And I can't always explain it. So I've got a whole bunch of these other ideas, but I was wondering what kind of things would you guys like to see for the next one? Since this one's almost done, my theory is that I will finish this off afterwards, whatever doesn't get finished while we're live today. And then I might even make a couple extras, like different types of mushrooms. I've had people submitting some different ideas for different mushrooms that I could do. And I love the ideas, but so far the main idea that I've received was one that requires me to cut open part of the mushroom. So I'm going to have to hold off on that one until just a little bit. It's a mushroom that has like a blue meat on the inside. So I'm kind of thinking of stuff like lion's mane or inky cap, some of those ones that have like an external difference to them. And I think it'd be a lot of fun to make a couple of those. So I'm going to try and do that. Like, for example, if I make this with an inky cap, I'll do this in the dark gray with black. I'll do this with like a light gray. So it has a totally different look to it. I might even change the feet depending on how I really feel about it towards the end of it. But the idea is that it'd be a lot of fun to try and do something that you guys would like to see. I say weird, and to me, weird can mean anything from horror to just strange. So it might be a lot of fun to see what kind of things you guys think are strange and weird, and then maybe design something from that. Of course, I've got a whole book full of different things. Like, for example, I've got this little guy. The idea is that it looks like this, but it's got a mouth on the bottom, and then you pull the plush inside out through its mouth, and this is what the other side looks like. And then you can also leave the tentacles partly out, so it looks like it's got tentacles coming out of its mouth. So I thought that would be a lot of fun to kind of maybe I'll post some different things. These are just simple little dots meant to be like elementals. So I would add like a fire to it and plants and mushrooms and crystals. Of course, we could also do like something like more of a moth or butterflies. These ideas were just pieces of different things. So I like two-headed dragon. I had this idea of this carrier guy, and what I would do is I would build a backpack for him, and I would put other plushes and inside his pocket, like fish bones and little monsters and stuff like that. So the idea is that we can try something that you guys would like to see. Maybe there's a horror movie you would like to see something made from. Maybe you would just like to see something new and unique. And I am totally okay with all of that. I'll probably post a video that has a lot more stuff in it of my drawings. So maybe you guys can put like little comments and requests from that. Or maybe it'll inspire something else. Maybe you have an idea that you would like to see that you've thought of as well. I can't say for sure how I will do other people's ideas. One of the problems with doing other people's ideas is I'm always afraid that someone's going to feel like I stole from them, even if they gave me permission. So the idea of risking that is it's not literally scary, but it's right on the cusp of it. So I don't want anybody to feel like I'm ignoring something like that. Suggestions that say, hey, I made this character. What do you think about doing that? I'm okay with it within degree and maybe in time. But there's always that possibility that what will happen is somebody will see it, I will make one, and then they'll give me permission to do some, and then they realize, hey, I'm selling them. Oh, he's selling the thing that I designed. I'm very mad about that. And it's suddenly not cool. And that's totally their prerogative. People are allowed to change their mind, revoke consent, all that stuff. But I don't want to wind up being in a situation where it becomes worse, where it becomes like a legal battle of some sort, because I'm just not going to fight it the same way. All right, right now, normally I don't like to do this on camera. It's one of those things that feels kind of super boring. But again, I did not have time to do anything extra. I was real happy that I got one of them done so that I could see what it's going to look like on the body, which, by the way, let me go ahead and move this stuff around. So basically, it'll look like that. I didn't sew it closed because, again, it was part of the whole rushing thing. And I was really happy that I was at least able to get that done enough to see so I would know, okay, I can make some more exactly like that. And that's all I'm doing right now is I'm real quickly trying to cut out the patterns so that I can sew those up. And then we can put it together, at least see what it looks like. And then here out in a few minutes, depending on how many people show up and what kind of input we get, I'll probably start doing the tentacles before I worry too much about making these legs permanent. But they're such a simple thing to make that I figured it wouldn't be too bad of a problem to rush through it. And then I could always just stop stuffing them and sew them on or go to the next thing. That is one kind of neat thing about making my own patterns. I get to choose how difficult I want a thing to be. I could have made this with 2 different pieces so that it had really thick thighs, and I might still do that eventually. But for the time being, it's nice to be able to just test it with a simple little design. All right, I'm going to do a little bit of scrolling, make sure I didn't miss anything here. There's a whole lot of things that tend to happen. It tells me every time someone joins, but then it tells me that those are new messages. So I never know for sure what's actually new and what is actually happening. All right, get this out of the way, get these out of the way, do some real quick sewing, and then we will see where this lands as I'm putting it together as well. I'm not even going to tack these together. I'm literally just going to run through and sew it real quick. I know that there's one of the points in me doing this has to do with teaching people how to sew so they can make their own things. But it's kind of nice to know that you can get to a point where you don't have to tack and pin everything in place. And by showing that, I figured that's got to be a little bit helpful. Can't be the worst thing in the world. I just have to make sure that I do a decent enough job at it. All while trying to make sure that I stay on camera. And as you can see, all I'm doing is running along the edge. I'm not even doing a zigzag stitch. I don't even have thread that matches right now. Kind of one of those work with what you've got type situations. I think I actually have, I know I have black. I think I might even have some brown thread, but I'm not sure about it. But because I wanted to make sure that you could see how easy it is to hide the thread while using such a contrasting color of white on brown, I think this will be very helpful as well. So if you're thinking about sewing at home and you just only have a couple colors to work with, it's good to know that you don't have to have everything. And even if you hand stitch it, it's going to be pretty much the same thing. You don't have to worry about everything being perfectly perfect. Especially since, in my opinion, I found that most of my learning came from making huge mistakes. Well, some huge, some small. But essentially what wound up happening is I learned so much from my mistakes that I learned how to hide them, but I didn't learn how to stop them. And it's good to know that that's a way to kind of go about this whole process. So this will be the last leg I need to put together, and then we will lay everything next to each other. See if I need to go ahead and stitch it up, or if we can just start making the tentacles. It's funny is I really don't know what is entertaining to watch and what is kind of entertaining to hear. So I keep thinking to myself that no matter what I've done, it's got to be kind of like niche in its own way. Somebody might like it, but for the most part, it's going to be one of those things that most people don't. So I feel even worse when I'm doing something that I don't even really enjoy. Like the simple stitches like this, okay, whatever. I'm pretty much over it. I know what I'm doing. I can run through it. Don't have to think about it. So that's great. But it's also the part that I go on autopilot on. So I'm barely even thinking while I'm running through with this kind of stuff. You can see I'm just cutting off the excesses. I'm not even thinking about where I'm cutting it. I do want to make sure that I don't leave that there, though. I don't know where that got caught in from. And then just a real simple process of insiding it out. I mean, like I said, there's zero need to worry about or think about with this kind of stuff. So I can really just kind of do it. I've got these mice that I've been working on, and every time I do a new mouse, when I do a new one of these, I've got to pay attention to each little bit because all these are so small. And then when I try and do something different with them, like make it the ear bigger, or the eyes bigger, the nose bigger, I have all those extra things that I have to pay attention to, which again, is not a problem. It's just that it's such a vast difference from something like this. Real easy piece. And I think it's kind of neat to know that you can go on autopilot with something. I don't know how many of you guys do any kind of creating at home, anything from painting, maybe relief carving or sculptures. I kind of imagine that every project has that space where you are just doing it without thinking about the whole process, just that exact moment maybe. But that's just how I see art as in general. So, all right, now I'm going to go ahead and stuff these up real quick. That shouldn't be too much of a process. You do a little bit of adjusting again. I'm going to scroll one more time, make sure I'm not missing anything. There's a few people that tend to join up pretty regularly. I like to say hi when they show up, but I don't always notice it. So like Cat B and Foxy, Shadow, Hamburger, Seal. There's a few people that tend to show up, and I love to say hi to them. And for anybody that's been here several different times, and if you're interested, you could always talk to me too. I am going to be happy to answer questions. So if you're trying to learn how to sew, I might actually have some answers for you because I am all self-taught. So I might actually have some things, but I also might be telling you the wrong way, which is just my way of kind of warning you in advance that I'm still learning. And every now and then, even on these lives, I've actually learned a few different things from some people who've done a lot more sewing than I have. There's a person named Bobby that pops in every so often that I've seen. And she told me how to do a couple different things in the past too. So that's been pretty helpful. And then with Cat B was working on a project that she just could not get her sewing machine to have a tight stitch. Like she could see her thread the whole thing through. So it caused this problem where she couldn't get anything finished because of that. So we had to go through a bunch of extra steps to see if we can fix that problem for her. And while I didn't know exactly what it was, I had my suspicions and we fixed that problem. So if you're trying to work at home, you've got some ideas, bounce them off me. I'm ready to talk, ready to help out as best I can. So for the time being though, I'm just going to quickly stuff these in. My hope is that what I can do is, even if I don't finish stitch it, if I just do like some real quick and simple stitches, I can ladder stitch this onto the body and we can use that to tell what the rest of it's going to look like. Because I think that's going to be the last thing that makes a difference on what colors we should use for the tentacles, is kind of looking at the overall color of everything, how it all works together and how it fits. And I'm just used to that from a lot of my other projects. Like, for example, oil painting. I learned a long time ago that I have to ignore parts of it while I'm painting because I'll paint from back to forward, darks to lights. And what that means is sometimes it just does not look right because I have so much missing that I have to ignore it, because otherwise I just focus on the parts that I'm working on without realizing that it's not actually a problem. So I figure if we put the legs on, it'll be helpful for the tentacles, get a good look at the whole thing, because that's going to be, these are the last couple things that are being done to this. Again, this is what we're working on. I've got the mouth all set up, so this is the inside of the mouth. I will add the dots to this depending on how the today goes with the tentacles. And what I'm working on right now are the feet. So we are pretty darn close to being completely done with this guy. And it's so funny to think that I started off with just a sketch and then taking a vote from people who are watching some of my videos, because I put up a vote for between this one and what I was calling my long bat. So I was going to make either this or this, and people really liked this guy. And then while we were on live, it just started being called a mushroom slug. So that changed it again. I didn't really have an idea for how I was going to finish off the tops of it, the top and the back. In fact, I think the back was a totally different design. I think it was just going to be the same color as this body, but through a few different votes and a few different people talking about what they wanted to see, we switched up, and it just seemed like such a great idea to turn 2 spots into mushroom caps. And that is something I forgot to do. I actually intended to add at least one dot to it so that we could see what it looks like. But again, running out of time, trying to cook, trying to take care of the family, trying to do commissions, all that stuff, just, man, it piles up. That's another thing too, is I'm actually super happy about the number of commissions I have. I just feel like I'm behind all the time. I'm even right over here. You can see all this orange material. I'm actually working on some stuff for a local show that's coming up, and it's going to be anime themed. So I'm trying to make a bunch of my not Pokemon for that as well. And it's just, everything just kind of keeps building and building and building, which is great though, because I actually love to do this, but it does have that downside of feeling like there's a lot going on all at one time. Let's see, I'm trying to readjust here. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly stitch a couple of these legs together, the backs of them, so I can do at least one side. I'll put both of them on the side facing us. And I'm also going to use the same side in accordance to the drawing. So it looks pretty close to what I drew. And it'll be easier to kind of compare that way. Now, if anybody is watching and they are trying to figure out how to close up a stitch, there's a real easy stitch to use. Close up a plush. Sorry, not close up a stitch. This is a great stitch that can be used for both closing the backs, like for example right here. See where I've got that opening? This is where I put this fluff in, how I put the eyes in, how I right side it out when I'm done. But also, when you have to close that, you're going to use this same stitch that I'm getting ready to use here. This is going to be done on a smaller one. You go ahead and move just a little bit in. If I get close enough to the camera, I can show you the stitch, but if I'm too close, it'll get real blurry on me. All right, what I'll do, this is actually a thicker needle than what I usually use, or what I would prefer to use. I usually use this now. It's been quite some time. My last needle's actually broke on me. I will put that needle in really close to the seam that's already here, if not through the seam. But because it's so big, the tiny knot will actually pull right through. So I will actually go right back in. Oops. Right the same spot, not the exact same spot, but pretty close. Go between the 2 strands of thread and pull it tight. Now it's actually going to hold it in place. You can see how it's pulling the material. Now I can start stitching without having to worry about accidentally pulling my knot through. I will we'll go out directly across to the other piece, push it in, and do a very shallow stitch. Oops, I got that right at the seam, so I need to move it in just a little bit. Very shallow stitch. Pull out, and what will happen is it'll actually pull it closed. So as you get further in with this open area, you're going to keep doing the same thing, directly across, really shallow stitch, and each one is going to be basically making the rung of a ladder, and it pulls it tight with each time. You're going to want to keep that distance from the edge of the material about the same as what your seam is right here. And what will happen is as it pulls close, especially with this furry material, it'll start to hide your seam and your opening. So you won't have to worry about, and when you buy a plush, you'll see a zigzag stitch on the backs of most of them. And that's what it looks like when you don't do a very even stitch like what I'm talking about, which isn't bad. So as you kind of get better, you'll hide it better and better. But that's roughly what you're aiming for. You're doing your very best to go directly across, kind of just clean it up in accordance to how the material is, because sometimes that material is not perfectly even either. And then keep going. You can see that my seam is already starting to disappear on me. And again, this is called a ladder stitch, and that's just because it looks like rungs of a ladder as you're going. Try and get right here. And you'll also probably notice I tuck in the material, the edge of the material between each stitch before I pull it tight, like right here. And that's because when it pulls in, I want it to completely hide that edge. And the good news is, because you are hand stitching, if you accidentally need to adjust the shape of it a little bit because your material's too weird, too much excess, it's easy enough to fix and kind of adjust as you go. Real simple process, real quick and easy. I like to backstitch a little bit because it makes it stronger, but sometimes I'll lose where I'm at, so I forget. So what I'm going to do now, I did the same thing, but I'm going to pull tight and wrap the thread around the needle twice. Pull that tight. You've now knotted your end. Take your needle and stab it in where that knot's at, and back out at a random point. Just be careful not to stab yourself in the thumb. I promise you that is one of the worst things ever. Pull tight, and now you can cut this off. The only reason I'm not cutting it off is because I'm getting ready to use it immediately to attach to the body. And I will use the exact same stitch. It's still a ladder stitch. I just got to find where I need to begin at. But the difference is you're not going between two ends, you're going between two pieces. So now, directly across. Again, I'm going to do this kind of loosely because I'm not too worried about this being permanent. And when I cut this loose, since I've already tied off this seam, I don't have to worry about it I don't have to worry about the rest of the thread coming loose. I just want to make sure that the leg stays where I want it. I'm going to make some wide stitches here. Each one going directly across from where the previous one went out. Trying to hold it in place. There's lots of things you could potentially do to hold it in place. You could use pins and stuff like that, but I find that they get in the way. So I'm just readjusting each time. Now, if you're making this the permanent stitch, you can see how wide I am between these. Here, I'll show you real quick on this. I will go in, and then I'm going out right here. That's like 1/2 inch to 1 inch. If I were actually sewing this permanently, I would be right next to it, as shallow as I could be. But because all I'm trying to do is a quick finish, this is also a good way that you can test things like this to see if they work, which is exactly what I am doing. And now I will definitely tie this off. I'm not even going to worry about back stitching or anything. I'm just going to tie it right where it's at. This is just enough to help me see what it's going to look like. And if I don't like it, it's easy enough to remove. Pull the knot tight. I'm not even going to hide this. Normally I would stab that in like I did before, but I am super not worried about that at all. Just a quick tie. I am concerned with what happens with the leg, so I am being careful with that part when I close it up. But that's all I'm really concerned with right now. This part I don't want to have to redo. Yep, see, this needle, like I said, it's so wide that it winds up making a space big enough to pull my knot right through. So I hate it, but this needle actually hurts me a lot less. Right here, you can see on my finger, I've got this from pushing the needle back in, and I keep forgetting to get a thimble. I think I've got a thimble here, and I'm absolutely sure that's what it would be used for, but I keep forgetting, and then I don't worry about it, and then I forget, and then I don't worry about it, and then time passes and I wind up with sores on my hand because it keeps stabbing into me. So one of the things to keep in mind is how you can protect yourself from getting hurt. I think it's pretty important, especially since we're working with a lot of sharp needles. It's definitely worth keeping in mind. But as you can see, I am stubborn and forgetful, and all those things add up to me just kind of being in a situation where I don't know what's going to happen. This time I've actually got most of my material tucked in. It kind of looks like a clam from this point of view. And all I'm doing is just a real quick, trying to make it nice and clean, ladder stitch all the way across the opening. Back stitch a little bit like I mentioned before. Have to make sure that all that is in there pretty good and tight. Make my knot. There's barely any any material left or any thread left, so I'm just going to make that really wide and real quick and simple. So this side, there we go. Now I don't have to worry. When I cut this loose, it's going to be on the inside of the foot, so I don't have to worry about how it looks. Once again, I'm just running through this real quick, just enough so we can see what it's going to look like. And it'll help with figuring out the tentacles in the mouth, because once again, this is about kind of seeing what the entire overall piece will look like. I think that the way that I've designed these legs, they actually will stand up. It's only going to stand about an inch off the ground, but that's all I really pictured, even when in the drawing. But trying to picture this guy walking seems kind of comical to me. It's almost like he would have to waddle at all times. And let's see if I can't pull this thread tight enough. Nope, doesn't look like I can. There we go. Now all I need is to be tight enough to tie it. Don't have to worry about how it looks in the back. Oops. And there we go. Just enough, barely enough. And cut loose. Now there is a couple things that have happened. You can see right here it's kind of bunched up a little bit because of how wide those stitches were. But I think that's still a good representation of what we're working with here. Hey, Catbee. I was wondering if you're going to make it today. Got all kinds of fuzz from all the other stuff that I've been working on. I got neon pink and orange and everything else on here. And let's see if we can get a good angle in this. We have to move everything way back there. And so just enough. Let's go ahead and tuck that there. Perfect. That's all we need. And that turned into that. What's weird is I can't tell what you guys can see. I've got like a list of messages and stuff like that from like people joining and following or anything else. So I don't know what's in the way for you guys. But that's pretty darn close. Started with the sketch, moved all the way across. Now we are on to the tentacles. Now I've got the brown one. Do we like the brown at all? Should I go ahead? So, Catbee, Hamburger's already commented as well. We've got 4 different color choices for the tentacles. I've got the cream that's the same as the rest of the body. I got the pink, which honestly, I think I'm going to go ahead and take the pink out. I don't think I like the pink after all, so we're going to use these 3 options. But this one is kind of a peach, almost like a fleshy color. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with Hamburger and do several of these. And even if I do them just at the center, and then we can see what we like better, whether we like the dark brown or the cream on the outside. So it looks like it's got 2 different colors. These are the only close colors I have. This is close to a light tan. It's kind of a light peach, almost like a fleshy tone to it. And just to show you the difference between this and pink, even on this light, you can see that there's a pretty big difference between the 2. The tan that I've got is this. The other option I would have would be like a cotton material, but I don't think I want to use cotton material yet. I think I'd like it to be all fuzzy. And I could maybe order some other stuff at a later time. But for right now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and cut out a few of these tentacles with this peach color, sew them up, and I'm not even going to stuff them. I like them being soft like this. I think it'll be a lot funnier than if I were to put fluff in them. So we're going to try and see what that looks like. And I just have to figure out this material. It's so soft. And one side's a little bit more fuzzy, which makes sense in a lot of ways, but I don't know which side I would be better to use. And this is going to be such a pain in the butt to draw on, I think. That's going to be hard to make the tentacles out of. So let's see. I think if we do this side, I think it'll look more like a tentacle coming out of the mouth because it's a little bit of a flatter fluff. I don't know if you guys can tell the difference here. But this is a little bit of a flatter kind of fuzz. Man, that lighting did not help at all. And I guess even from the side, it's hard to tell what it looks like. All right, so I'm going to try that real quick. I'm just going to go ahead and draw a couple of them up. Got the feet on. We're going to use that as a reference point. Life out of things. Oh, all fussy. I think the peach would look like the tangles of a thing that grabs things to take. Yes, that's kind of what I feel too. It's like it's a little bit icky, and it's got just enough of a difference in color that it doesn't seem to be natural, I suppose would be a good feeling to it. So it kind of makes it a little bit creepier. All right. So I'm trying to figure out how to adjust and make sure that everything can show up. Again, I'm going to be using my pen. This material might not even hold the pen lines. But I'm going to go ahead and hope. Yep, that's kind of what I was afraid of. This is going to be some pain in the... Oh, it's working okay now. I don't have to get all the pen to show up, just enough for me to follow lines, but I'm going to do about 3. And we're going to see how that looks. I really think this is going to be a good color for it, but the good news is we're not so dedicated to anything, and it'll help me know for the future whenever I do like other types of mushrooms what this will or won't look like as in general. And since I made the prototype, one of the few times I was saying earlier, I don't usually have time to work on these Wednesday projects during the course of the week. So I'm really glad that I actually had time to do these tentacles, because the first one I made was just too small and it took forever to figure out what was wrong with it, because I was trying to right side it out, which means I was fighting to right side it out, only to realize I couldn't. So that was a lot of wasted time. All right, so let me get this put away so I don't lose my mushroom slug. Anybody who is interested, when I am done with this, I will have my mushroom slug pattern available. I will try to pay attention to names and everything else. For example, the people who have been helping with stuff. So if you guys wind up making an order for either the mushroom slug or the pattern itself, I will make sure that I take care of you in some way, shape, or form. I'm not exactly sure what that means. Maybe some stickers, maybe a discount. We'll talk it out. Maybe you have an idea. Maybe there's something you'd like to see. And not only that, but if we work it out so that I can figure out how to make multiple types of mushrooms, that could make for a lot of fun little projects. I have this idea of when I go to when I go to craft shows to be a vendor, I have enough vegetation themed plushes that I make a creepy garden. So I had mutant mushrooms with tentacles coming out of them that had a face carved into them like a jack-o'-lantern. I've had the like Audrey 2 looking plants. So somewhere between Little Shop of Horrors and Mario Brothers. I made mushrooms, walking mushrooms. I did snails, and I put different things on their shells. So I think this guy will fit in fine with that. I also did some mushroom fairies, and I think it'd be kind of fun to make some mushroom fairies to go up next to these mushroom slugs. But I've done different types of each one. So I think it'll be a lot of fun to maybe like a one-up mushroom slug, like Mario Brothers, one life kind of thing. In addition to all the other different kind of crazy mushrooms that you can get. Now again, this is one of my least favorite parts of making a plush, but it's also part of just the process. There's nothing that I can do that I can think of that would avoid me having to cut things out. I don't think a laser cutter would help either. I think it would just kind of singe and burn and maybe even start a fire with this material, especially materials like this that are very fuzzy. I know they're likely to be like synthetic and plastics, but I still picture that to not be a very safe combination. Laser beams and plastic. Now, anybody that's still here, just let me know. I was talking earlier about trying to figure out what we're going to do for our next project. I cannot remember if we've discussed anything yet, but if you guys are interested in seeing something, let me know. We run out. We could do different. Yes, definitely different sizes. It is a new pen, but that's because my other pen is in the other room. I still use it, but I brought it in the other room and forgot to grab it. Which is still funny to me that you noticed that. All right, so let's sew these together real quick. And yes, we could definitely do different sizes, but I'm not sure about the way to go about for the lives. My thinking is that if I start something new on the lives, I can always do different TikToks and videos and instructional videos on the different size versions of some of the stuff we've made. I don't know what would be interesting. I have a little bit of tism. Yes, just a hint of the tism. Okay. All right, so now I just got to line all these up. I've only got 3, so it's not going to be hard. There we go. I think I am going to pin these in place. This material is super soft, so it's also super flimsy, which also leads me to believe that it's probably very stretchy. So what I'm expecting is that if I don't pin it together, by the time I get to the other end, it will have stretched and won't fit itself anyways. And stretching isn't really a problem in some circumstances, but here, what would happen is it would cause like a curl. And I've done that before with different tentacles, and I really like it. But I don't want to do that yet. I want to see what this is going to do, because my thinking is if I can bunch this up nicely, it'll look really cool that way. Adjust my lighting. It does. It is actually incredibly soft. And I'm thinking I'm going to have to definitely use this to make that promised busty plush that somebody wanted. Take that out. I'm going to grab a hold of my thread. So what I'm doing is I'm going to use that thread as kind of the handle that I've talked about in the past. Just got to make sure I get just a little bit of pressure so I can pull it through. It's so soft that I think it's going to get yanked by the feed dogs or pinned by the boot. I'm not sure what'll happen. Get this up. I feel like I have to go extra slow too. I think that's part of the reason why I actually never use this material is because it's so soft that I really didn't want to have to try and learn how to do it on the fly. And then go figure, I'm doing exactly that. And let's go one more stitch. These can come out now. Oh, it's feeding through. Good. I was worried that that other end would cause that problem. I usually don't have a problem at that side. Well, that's hilarious. I hadn't done this in a long time. This is the side that's supposed to be on the outside when I sew it. I accidentally sewed it backwards. So that's a hilarious waste. Let's try that one more time. I'm sitting there looking at it like something doesn't seem right, and it took until right as I was about done to realize what I had done wrong. So basically what happened was there's the inside and the outside of any material. Obviously makes sense. Some materials it's a little harder to see on. Sometimes you'll get like a cotton material where the pattern it shows through really well. And in this case, both sides look pretty fuzzy. One's a lot smoother. I don't know if you can tell. That's very smooth compared to this kind of has a rough texture. zigzag stitch. It was so cool to work with. I am planning to make a busy mat for long trips. That's fantastic. The zigzag stitch is actually really sturdy too. I don't use it just because of how small I'm working with and this fuzz. But when I do clothes or anything like that, I definitely make sure I use a zigzag because it's also going to make your project so much stronger. Okay, now at least I can use that one as the handle. Pull this out. Yeah, there we go. That's giving me the problems I was expecting, while at the same time, I'm glad I've got the pin in there. And that was the last one. Turn it around. Come on, work with me like you did last time. Excellent. It's working. Because this material is so soft and stretchy, there's a possibility I can make the tentacles smaller with it. But I have to kind of run at the same concept of I want to be able to do it all the same when I do future ones. So let me go ahead and cut this loose. This is garbage now. And start the next one for long trips. Oh, that's right. You were talking about the busy mat. I'm not sure what a busy mat is. I'm picturing one of those like a pillow with a board on top of it. And if it is, my mom made one of those with using family pictures on the board. So that was fantastic. I've still got that in my room right now. And it's got pictures of my grandpa, my papa, and my uncle. I think it's got my aunt in it, all of whom have passed. So it's kind of neat to every now and then just bump into it and see family members. But I'm curious if that's what you're referring to when you say busy board. And I'm going to run through this pretty quickly. If I need to make a third one, I wanted 3 because I felt like it was a good solid number that I could kind of bunch together. But I'm not sure if I'm going to want to make a third one or not since I messed that up. Thinking maybe it's destiny. Put this out. We're going to hope that it lets me again. Excellent, it did. Now I'm sewing against the grain a little bit, so I have to kind of feed a little bit more. And extra cut. Making sure I'm scrolled properly. Okay, and go ahead and cut. Now, you know what? I'm not sure how strong this is, so I'm not going to cut quite as much as I normally would off the tip of that. But still going to cut it pretty short. A new upgrade, since I cleaned up my areas, I put a trash can next to my workspace, so now I don't have to worry about constantly having a pile of trash to my side. Let's go ahead and turn this out, which sounds hilarious to me in my head. It's probably not that weird to anybody else. I think that's going to look really cool as a tentacle, as a mouth tentacle, as a grabby mouth. Push that out. I've learned a lot of little stupid things that I don't even realize I'm doing. Like instead of trying to push in the center here, grabbing that lip with my hand and then right-siding it out at the end. And then what's funny is when it decides it doesn't want to work and I feel silly for doing it a different way. And here we go. I think these tentacles are going to look really good. This material is going to look really good. And that's just because it doesn't have as much of a fluff. It's still super duper soft, but it just doesn't have that same feel to it. Now I'm kind of curious. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this side of this one that I was sewing backwards. I'm kind of curious what the other side of that material will feel like. When I right side it out, maybe I'll wind up liking that better, or it'll give me an option for variety. And I'm glad it let me just pick right back up. I was really afraid it was going to force me to kind of pull on some things. Get some of this out of the way. Trying not to cut my hand because that would suck. And let's see what this looks like. See, on this one, I accidentally put the smooth side out when I sewed it. So that's why I had to stop using it. But I realize it's going to come through properly. The only downside is it's probably going to have some pen marks on it. But I also might have cut close enough to not have to worry about that. Oh, I forgot to cut off my end here. That's super fuzzy. I don't like it very much. Well, but now I know, so that's good to know. I'm not even going to worry about keeping this one. All right, so do some rearranging again. Make sure I get enough of this guy on the camera. All right, here is setup. I think that, here, let's go ahead and use these. What I'll do is I'll just kind of pin it in place. Just enough to hold it and hold it where it's at. And if I do a whole bunch of those, then I also have the option to do the brown on the outside. And pin that one in place as well. I kind of think that the two different colors combined will look really good. I can do brown on the bottom and peach on the top. I can do brown on the outside, peach on the inside. What do you guys think? Can you even tell? I know that the lighting is kind of hard to see what's going on here. What I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to adjust to see if I can get this lighting so it looks good enough. Maybe turning down some of the lights will help. So that gives us a brown and the peach. Maybe if I change the color of this. Nope, that's not the right button. Yeah, I think that works a little bit better. You can see the color just a little bit better here. Wow, that's wild how much of a difference that made. So do we like the two color tones? Should I make a few more of the peach ones and then make some brown ones as well? Should I just make peach? I kind of like the idea of the two different colors. So maybe I'll make a couple more peach and then we'll attach it and then we'll see what it looks like after that. Does anybody have any thoughts in general? I know that it's kind of hard to gauge and that there's a little bit of lag between talking and stuff. So I'm kind of being a little bit slow. You like the two as well, Cat B? All right, so what I'm going to do, let's see, that covers about, let's see how much space this covers. 2 will cover, because I'm going to have to hand stitch all these on for now. In the future, I'll have another plan for it, but right now it's just going to be all hand stitched. So if that covers that, I probably need about 4 more, at least 4 more. And then I will kind of see what happens. I'll do 4 more of them, and then I'll do like a few more browns as well. So let's go ahead and put these over here, get this over here. There we go. And then let me get my other stuff. I got to like clean up between everything that I'm doing so I don't accidentally knock pins out of the way. All these goofy little things that happen. Mushroom slug pattern. Now, one of the things I was thinking about, and I mentioned this on a previous Weird Wednesday, is the idea of doing like a giveaway with some of this stuff. But here's the problem. I'm working on this as a business. And yes, giveaways are great. But I'm also, the thing is, I operate very thin profit margins. I make just a few, like $20 for about 2 to 3 hours worth of work per plush that I make. And I definitely do not mind using plushes that I've made as giveaways. But then I start thinking, does that kind of sound like conceited? Also, I don't know how often I can afford to do something like that. But what I would love to do is hear what you guys' thoughts are. I know a giveaway would be great, and I would love to be able to do one. And if I do, it's going to be only for people who follow, they like the video where I post it, they share the stuff, all that stuff that's important. But what if I were to say, like, you pay shipping, or if you want a custom version of something? I don't know the best way to go about that and what sounds fair. I want to show appreciation. I love the idea of people watching me. I love the idea of you guys joining me while I'm trying to do my very best to teach and entertain and all that stuff. But the only ways that I can show appreciation are monetary, and monetary is hard sometimes. I got my kid that's running around. I've got very little time to work sometimes. Some days when I mow, I cook, I watch the baby. He's got activities, and eventually when he's in school, I won't have to watch him. But right now it's summer break, and time is just so precious. I haven't even finished the last giveaway that I wanted to do, and it's just a small mouse. But because I have to do magnets in it, I have to figure out things. And because I've got orders, I'm trying to catch up on those. So I just need some help. I need to know what I can do to show you guys some appreciation. I know that not everybody's part of that. Not everybody's going to be involved. Not everybody's interested. But those of you who are, let me know. Let's see. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, that's good. And let me know what I can do, because I want to find ways. I've done a couple of giveaways. I've done a few things where I've added other plushes to orders. But with these things, there's a whole other project, and it's a whole other process. And I think it'd be fun to kind of do something related to it. Maybe just stickers. Maybe I can do like a regular plain white envelope with some art in it or some stickers. Do you think that would qualify as a nice giveaway? Because that's just stamps. I've got envelopes, and I've even got some stamps. But does that sound kind of like a crappy giveaway? Does it sound like something that nobody would enjoy having? Let me know in the comments here, but also feel free to message me. And if I miss your comment, I will scroll back and I will reply to it later, or I will reply to it after I get off, because a lot of times I'm able to see when people leave the comments. I can read all the previous comments from the day. So just kind of talk to me. Let me know what you think. Let's see. Don't sell yourself short. Pay. I'm daily. Certain giveaways make you pay shipping at least. Yes, I have to pay shipping for sure. Free stuff, you end up paying shipping. Yes, definitely. And I that's kind of where the balance is. It's somewhere between, can I afford the shipping? Is that worth a giveaway? A lot of that stuff. And lately I've been thinking about doing the kind of like a mailing club type thing, where there's a subscription, and then in that subscription, maybe you get the pre-cut material for a mouse. For example, what I would do is send you this, just a handful of stuff. Then you would get a couple eyes, and you could hand stitch it from home. You can do what you want from home. And I was thinking maybe that could be something as a giveaway. I know that doesn't seem the same, because not everybody likes to sew. But like, I can always do a mouse, but for these weird Wednesdays, maybe something different. Maybe we can find a kind of a balance between it. Maybe, like I said, art, stickers, a pattern. A pattern wouldn't be bad, because then I could email a pattern. So like, I can give away the pattern to this plush to people who enter that are interested in it. So feel free to talk to me. Let me know what you guys think. Yeah, customer paying shipping on a free giveaway does make sense. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but it's not something everybody would be interested in. Shipping for what it matters. Something like this would probably be like $9 shipping. That's what I tend to charge for most of my shipping. So it's not even like expensive. And yes, I know $9 isn't much, but so I could do it as well. And it would kind of go towards the whole showing appreciation thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe it's not even something I need to worry about. I imagine that if somebody's watching me do this, then they would enjoy getting one of the things that I created during it. But that might be overthinking as well. I guess basically what winds up happening is I don't understand enough about people. I'm kind of a weirdo. And for me, watching stuff like this is a lot of fun in itself. I've done it on YouTube for a couple different times. And doing it on live, I don't even know how I'd kind of go about doing that. I'm always so busy that I haven't even listened to like a podcast or anything in a long time. I haven't been watching movies because my son's home, so I can't even put them on in the background. I don't know. Maybe it's just yammering too much. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead. I'm actually almost done cutting these out. This material, again, being so easy to cut makes it a little helpful. I'm going to go ahead and do about 4 on the brown as well. And that should be enough for me to see what it will look like and if I need more. And if I'm lucky, that'll be really close to all I need. I'm hoping that we got 6 of these flesh tone ones will work for an inner layer of the mouth. So it'll look like 2 layers of tentacles coming out. But it also should be enough for us to say, oh, you know what? Just one color should be good. And if this turns out to be a waste, that's not horrible. I hate wasting material, but I'll figure out another use for the tentacles later. I do that all the time. I make a tentacle, make a leg, make this and that, and then suddenly, poof, it doesn't work. All right, just got to get all the right sides facing each other. Make sure that I don't make that same mistake. There's those, so that should be these. And let's pair this up real quick. Do it the right way. I keep trying to I don't know why. I think it's because this side looks fuzzy. I keep thinking that that's the side that needs to go out. Or sorry, it needs to go in because I want it to be on the out when I'm done. As you can see, this is not difficult. And you don't even have to think too much about it. I mean, I had to worry about the thickness because I needed to right-side it out and because it had to be a certain size for my plush. But if you're making tentacles, honestly, if you've got like any kind of plush at home, a frog, a bear, or anything else, but stickers or mail would be cheaper as you pay. I'm somewhere in the idea of being cheaper about it, but at the same time, I want to be fair and appreciative. So yeah, it's kind of going to be a balance. So that may be a great idea if people are interested in it. Stickers, I'll do some digital stickers and print those out. All that stuff has cost to it, which is why I don't offer it automatically for everything that I make, but I love doing it. So more often than not, I wind up sending stickers to people whenever they order with me. And when I can, I do custom stickers as well. And I set those up as orderable, but it takes me like a couple hours to do the drawings for them. And I got a sticker printer, which was great. So what I was saying is that if you have plushes at home, you could just cut out something similar to this. Any shape that you want your tentacle to be, you can make stuff like this, and you could turn any of your plushes at home into a monstrous tentacle plush. And you can use the ladder stitch that I showed you, and we'll show you again. And you just find matching material, or you find like tentacle colored material. So you like greens and pinks or purples, and you can make it all to match. And I think that that's a funny idea. You're just taking your plushes from home that you're like, about, and turning it into something that you're like, yeah, this is perfect. I actually made a series of teddy bears where I made tentacles for one of them, and then I made mutated versions of them and different things like that. It's always fun to be able to customize your own toys. At least I feel like it is. I remember when I was younger, I used to take apart Transformers to try and put them together in different patterns and different ways. They didn't really work that way, but the G.I. Joes did because they only had like a screw and a spring or a rubber band on the inside. So you could make your own G.I. Joes by taking them apart and putting arms on different characters. All right, and let's see what we got here. So we're going to go ahead, and if I've done this right, I've got 3 of these. I'll have 4 of these total and 6 of these total. We should be able to at least see what it'll look like with them on one side, which will be enough for to determine whether or not he'd adjust it for the other side. Again, this is just going to take a few minutes. There's nothing I can do about that. But the good news is that this is pretty much it. I mean, the legs look cute. I think the legs look cute. Give me a second. I'll pull that up again. We can look and see. My original plan was to basically make a really thick thigh for the legs. But when I put it together real simple like that, just to see, I liked it enough. So unless you guys disagree, I think these simple legs are good. I may in the future add like a claw here, like a single talon. I may add some like suction cup looking things on the bottom, but that's going to be after we figure out the last of the details for this. I really love the eyes, and what I can do is multiple eyes in different patterns for different types of mushrooms, so that's going to be a lot of fun too. And of course, there's the dots, but that's going to be one of those things that I kind of wind up doing just overnight one day. So if I can get these sewn together, since I'm not stuffing them up, I should be able to just kind of pin it all on, and we can see what we do or don't like about it. So whenever it comes down, feel free to comment and send your opinion on it. And another thing, if I ask a question, I promise you, I'm not going to get offended by anything you guys say. You can say that it's my duty to give you free stuff, and I won't be offended. I don't have to agree, but I won't be offended. So if anybody's watching and you've been watching for a little while and you're kind of have a thought on something I should be doing between plush ideas, what I should do for next week, or when I was talking about the giveaways, feel free to chime in. I am more than happy to hear multiple opinions. I love Catbee is always here and always ready to work with me, and I think that's fantastic. Catbee and I have been talking about all kinds of different things, and I do my best to kind of make sure that Catbee knows how much I appreciate them. So anybody else that is interested, Catbee is also really great at helping with questions. So if you have a question about anything that I do or any of the reasons I do certain things, if I've talked about it, there's a chance that Catbee knows an answer, so I might miss your message. But even if I come back, Catbee will probably be right on it anyways. And just to be clear, that's not me trying to put you in pressure, Catbee. Don't feel like you have to. I'm just letting you know that if somebody sees Catbee reply, it's totally okay. And get these out of the way. Get everything paired up, so all I have to do is grab and then sew. These were easier to line up because I'm used to what I'm looking for. Such a big difference between the inside and the outside of these. And let's sew. Try to readjust my camera each time I do something different. That's fantastic, and I really appreciate your help as well. So we're going to see if maybe I can actually sew this without putting the pins in it. That would be great, because then I don't have to worry too much. And after I get that first one in there, I can use that as the handle. Excellent. Now I just got to make sure I hold it so it doesn't stretch it. And once I get to the end, I don't have to worry about if it does stretch. Because if it does, by the time I get to the end, then it's just going to curl on the bottom, and that's totally fine. And one of the things I'm going to show is why I leave the previous piece attached. It actually started because I was trying to save as much thread as I could. I figured if I was pulling it all the way off and cutting each thing loose, then I was probably wasting like a foot of thread with each project. And because I'm working on such a small budget, working my best to save as much money as I can, I would leave this on so that I was only losing like an inch. Well, once I started sewing smaller and smaller, for example, when I started making my mice, I've got another one here somewhere. When I started making these mice, all of this is so small that it would get caught up in the feed dogs. Which piece are you currently sewing? Oh, let me show you. This guy. Oops. Let me get back just a little bit more. This is the mushroom slug. That's the drawing. So today, Misfire, what I'm doing is I'm actually putting the tentacles in the mouth. So that's literally the part that I'm sewing, and this is what they are going to look like. Which should be just creepy enough so that that mushroom slug will have that kind of dangerous look to it. But still cute, hopefully. So when I was doing these small mice, this material, this fluffy material, would get caught up in the feed dogs and wouldn't go through the machine. Little AI overview thing is way off. It said strawberry. What? Oh, wow. The strawberry mouse was like the very first live that I had done. Trying to do a tablecloth. Wow, that's going to be pretty big. So what kind of table are you doing, like sections of it or just like one big flat piece? Because I've seen kind of both versions of that, Bethany. Let's see. Tentacles for the mouth. Yes, the tentacles. Okay, let me move this all the way out of my way here. But as I was saying, leaving this on, I realized while I was sewing the mice that I needed a handle to kind of pull it through, just kind of guide it. So what I can do is, give me a second here, let me line this back up. I do my back stitches, and I could pull this way. And now, with that thread and this still attached, when I do my forward stitching, I can do just a little bit of pressure pulling back on this so that it doesn't get caught up in there. Once I got enough material through that I can use it to push, I don't have to worry about it. But it's a way easier than trying to pull the little bit of string through or letting your material get stuck all the time. And Bethany, squares, it's for a 6 foot by 6 foot table. Holy crap. That big squares, little squares, what are you thinking? Like fancy little triangles? Or are you going to be doing like almost like quilted? I'm kind of curious now. Well, I'm definitely curious. I say that because I am not a fan of quilting. Cat Bee does some quilting, and I've seen some pretty stuff that they've done. So I'm curious how you're planning on doing that, doing something similar for a tablecloth. And I also just suddenly realized if you're going to be wondered if you're going to be doing other things to it, like having sections hang off that have pockets. I don't know if anybody's ever seen those bed sheets that have the pockets built into them. Now I can cut this off. I will use this as the next handle and I can keep going. And I promise you, if you are doing small pieces like this, especially with fuzzy stuff, try this out. I can't guarantee it's going to work for everyone, but I'm guaranteeing you that if you can work it out, it will help at least a little bit. And I'm in such a habit of it that I still do that when I'm not even trying to sometimes. I'll be back at the screen in just a second. I am trying to kind of rush through this so we can see what it looks like. I realized that I got on late because I made dinner a little bit late, but I also realized it's still been over an hour, and all I have done is these little tentacles and the feet. It's amazing how time will kind of fly. As you can see, when it's got that solid end, it works actually really well in the sewing machine. I haven't got to feed it through, but there are times it'll get caught up when you turn around as well. And if that does, you have a few options. One, you can just start over and go the other direction. Kind of like if you were starting a new one like I've been doing. Basically, if you go down and it gets caught, you just flip it over and go down the other side. You could also pull this loose, like lift your boot, lift the needle, pull it loose, and reset the needle. And sometimes you can restart right where it left off. I'm checking to make sure that I didn't miss any stitches. I've got a little bit of allowance on this, so it's actually helpful. Let's see, let's get back here. Squares, 6 foot by 6 foot. Okay, yes. We have a barnwood table, so it random size squares, then elastic. Oh, that's nice. I like that. That'll look really cute. Make it look nice and fancy too. Are you using like scraps, or do you have like a special type of material that you're using? I use these. I found some a tablecloth material that I don't like for tablecloths. And it's pretty old and it doesn't fit my table, but I used it to make a dress. An outfit, maybe not a dress, that I want to use for a painting. I'm going to get a model to wear it, and I'm going to do photographs in it and make a painting of that. And the table material was real fancy. So I'm just a little curious if you're aiming for a fancy tablecloth or one of those, not to suggest it's not fancy, but more of a family cloth, an heirloom type cloth made from scraps of other clothing or quilts. Okay. Again, I'm going to use that same thing when I do these browns. I've only got a couple of these. I think I like doing the top arch, the downward arch first. You can even hear the sewing machine is a little different with this material because it's a little thicker. And what's funny is it's a little bit harder to use. I did not anticipate that. But I can get a little bit closer to the edge on it, at least. And it shifted on me, but that's okay. I don't think there's a problem with my sewing machine. It feels like it's... The sounds that it's making seems like it may be having an issue, but it literally started with this material, so I'm thinking that maybe it's just kind of in my head. But it looks like it's stitching pretty well. Yeah, there's no problems with the stitch. 3 yards of cotton fabric, and it's 3 different fabrics. So, oh, that'll look pretty. So it's going to have like a pattern on it. Random size squares. Okay, random size squares. So are you going to like build from the outside with like a circular pattern? You're going to do like those geometric things that I've seen? That'd be kind of neat. I'd really love to see it. So whenever you're working on it, do me a favor. As you kind of think about it, if you are willing, I'd love to see pictures. Just send them to me, and I can see it as you're kind of working on it. Yes, I do get interested in what other people are working on. Yes, that is a genuine interest because I love to see other people working on projects. But I also do not have any expectations or demands towards seeing that kind of stuff. Recently, somebody sent me some fan drawings, I guess would be the right word for it, of my mice. And I thought that was fantastic. Their name was Alicia. And I've tried to use neutral pronouns. I don't know if anybody's ever noticed that or not. But their name was Alicia. And I posted that on my page. I thought they were great. But I love to see what other people are doing too. Kat showed me a window cover that she made. She had to take apart a universal window cover that did not fit their car. Kind of no, just squares like a blanket, but table. Okay, fair enough. Totally understandable. Did you buy material for it, or is it something that you had remaining? Using 3 different colors on that, that you probably had to buy a lot. So about 6 foot, you're using 3, so about 2.5 feet. Square. Actually, because of the loss, you probably had to go way over that. You probably had to get about 4 feet for each. I don't know if you have done much sewing, but even on a flat project, when you sew 2 pieces together, you can see right here. Well, maybe it's better here. You can see a slightly white line. You're going to lose at least this much material for each piece. So you probably want it with a whole bunch of material to have 3 to make your table. 6 foot by 6 foot tablecloth. That was a hard lesson for me to learn. I bought some stuff to make something, but I bought it the exact size I thought I needed. And in the end, because of that loss, I wound up having to go buy more material and almost completely start the project over. It's more to protect the table from the kids. That makes sense. Oh my goodness, my nose is itching. It was only 3 yards for now to see. Well, that's the good news is that since you are doing it as a random project, random shapes, not like a very specific pattern, you have the ability to like, okay, I need more. I'll get more. Okay, now with each one of these, I do double check to make sure that the stitch is all the way around. I am used to having a small corner at the end, so I know that I have to cut this off. If I don't, it's going to knot up and it's going to be uncomfortable and it's not going to always even right side out. I might be able to pull from the middle here because this is a thicker material. Let's see. I'm going to try and show you what I'm talking about. Basically pushing it right side out, just kind of getting it started from the middle. And then I just push the rest of it through. That is not a bad way to do that. Sometimes it doesn't work if you are got such a small piece. So what I prefer to do is I prefer to grab the opening, each hand, and then, well, actually, I guess I use my middle finger for this. Right side it out right there, just a little bit, just enough to get it started, and push from here. Another thing, there are lots of other things you can do actually. For example, when you're sewing this together, you could put a piece of string right here. Basically, when you get to the end, you put a piece of string in, you put the needle in, and then you fold your string out. So what would happen is you would have a piece of string that would stick out like this at the corner. And what would happen is you would want that on the inside. So what you could do is just pull it out and it'll pull with it. And then you can just pull that loose string out. I've never really done that, but I've also been able to right side everything I've worked with the way that I'm showing you. So I've never had to worry too much about it. I did forget to cut that end off, but that's okay. It doesn't feel too bad. Sorry, sometimes when I'm trying to do two different things, like trying to explain at the same time, I will forget lots of little steps, especially on a new project. I've never made this before. This plush is brand new. The whole thing I made was live. So every time I did something, I tried to figure it out from the pattern, and then I would miss different things when I tried to put it together. So there's a lot of things like that that'll happen. And in this case, things like the tentacle cutting out the end, it seems like it's something I should be able to do. But then I go and try and explain something, and I forget my steps, and essentially I just kind of run with it as I go. If I needed to, I could always pull that part right back out. And as you can see, I'm going to show you on the two differences here. There's not going to be much of a difference. So this one is a little bit tighter of an end, but having a wider end is not bad either, especially with something like this where it's going to be a little bit of variety. So if it adds just a little bit of a difference in shape, that's cool. See? I do still prefer it, so I'm going to keep doing that. And in the future, I might vary the directions of the tentacles a little bit, so I have some that go up and down and around. And there's lots of little ways to do that as well. For example, I could stretch out the bottom part. Like as it's going through the sewing machine, I could just literally stretch it just a little bit so that when it goes through and then when it's done, it'll actually curl because it tries to take the shorter shape. And I've done that with plushes for a lot of other things. And it's actually really neat because you can get a twist on your tentacle and it makes it look like it's actually writhing a little bit more instead of just hanging there or sitting there, which is a really cool effect. And a couple more. Since I am thinking about it, I might as well just go ahead and just cut these as well. And then I can just clean up my mess all at once. What's funny is the number of things that I do that, yes, they have to be done, but I don't even know if I ever think about them otherwise. You know, if I'm writing instructions down for stuff, I don't usually talk about trimming that stuff down, trimming on those corners. I try to remember for things like when I did my mouse pattern, but I really don't know. I have to review and see if I did that on there. No one's complained, so I have a feeling that everyone's been able to work it so far. I've had a few suggestions because I've directly asked, but I really ought to get to work on making some patterns. I've got them all saved. I've got them all in little bags, but I think it would be a really helpful thing if I could just direct people to patterns, especially since I get a lot of interest from international. So I've got a lot of mice that I've been selling to people through Germany, Switzerland, Italy, UK, a lot of different places. Now, the downside is that the shipping is $25, and I know that that's not something that everybody can do because that basically makes a $60 plush, especially at the size of some of my plushes. It seems like the idea that somebody would pay $60 for something like this blows my mind, but I have made as much effort to make these as perfect as I can for people so they can wear them and carry them around. And people have been interested, but I've also had a lot of people that just buy the patterns. And I think it's fantastic that people can then make it themselves at home. All right, we are almost done. This is going to be the last of the tentacles that we make today. We're going to pin this in place and kind of see how it works out. And then I will see if there's any thoughts anybody has. I might do one of the white dots so you guys can see what I'm doing with it. Come on. I figures the last one would get all jammed up in there. Come on. There we go. I also had that We Don't Talk About Bruno song stuck in my head because we watched that today. And there we go. All right, now we have got a handful of tentacles. I think maybe what I should do is make this real easy on myself. I'm going to go ahead and do a real quick, real simple stitch that kind of clusters them together, because I think that will be easier and get us a better look at things than if I were to just pin them on there. So if I just run it through real quick, all it's got to do is be enough to hold them in place. Sorry, I had to lick my thread. I think that needs to go on a shirt. Sorry, I had to lick my thread. And what we'll do is we'll just kind of do some haphazard stitches. Run it through twice, bring it through the two threads. Trying not to stab myself as I do it. Here. Do another one. Basically, all I'm doing is trying to cluster this up. This isn't like a super figured out plan. It's just enough so I can get them to see what they're going to look like. Make sure that they hold strong enough to be in place. Oops. I think that color looks really good like this. The tentacles themselves just kind of seem to be weird. Weird in the right way, the way that we wanted. I'll do up. Again, this isn't like a plan. This is just a cluster. What I'm going to wind up doing is probably hand stitching all these on anyways. So there's going to be a lot of things that I won't be able to like repeat perfectly the same. Let's go ahead and pull all this tight. There we go. I'm really not sure how this is going to hold together at all. I probably could have like tied it together, just a twist tie type thing, and gotten the same effect. Last one. Oh, that looks cute. That looks cool. That in itself is pretty neat. Let's see. I think if I just make a simple tie. Tie this on. There should be enough for us to see whether or not we even like the way this looks, because the colors still might be too weird. And then combine that with the idea that we are going to be using a brown on the outside. But I do think that the shape of this actually is coming together pretty close to how I have it sketched. Now, when I hand stitch it, there's going to be a lot of things that will be different. Like I'll control the angle of it a little bit better, or how close they are, or how long that they stick together. But I think this is going to be plenty to tell. Oops. Of course that was going to happen. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I'm staying on camera. All I'm doing is this quick stitches. But at the same time, if I'm doing it all off camera, it's kind of got to be annoying to see, or not see, I suppose. And we'll do one more stitch where I cut it off. And then we'll do the same thing here with these. These ones I won't be able to cluster up that same way though. That in itself looks kind of neat. A little bit long. It definitely needs the extra ones. I think that if there's too much space in there, the mouth does not look right. So, if I do this, I might be able to go from one to the other. And I could always just stitch separately if I need to, like if I need to attach one above it. Now, if anybody's watching this and didn't catch it, I am just running through this real quick on purpose. The main goal is so that we can see roughly what it'll look like and then make some decisions from there. You know, take some votes, hear some opinions, that kind of stuff. So this is definitely not a permanent stitch. In order to permanently stitch this, it would take quite a bit more time because I'd have to do each one of these with the ladder stitches, or at the very least kind of sew a bunch of them together and then ladder stitch across that. So there's a whole lot of things that would have to happen. And doing it this way actually gave me the idea that maybe I can run it through the machine, sew them all in a cluster, and then attach them like they were a single limb. I think I need to put one more down at the bottom. Everything kind of in place. I definitely feel like there's going to be one more at the top. So I'll just kind of get some more thread for that. These tentacles are going everywhere. It's kind of funny. Oh, come on. You could do it. Cut this off. I'm leaving enough extra so I can find that thread when I'm done. Like I said, I know I'm going to have to cut it all off anyways. But the easier I make it for myself later, the better. And one more piece of thread. There we go. But I think that I kind of like the two tones. I could even do a third color if I needed to. And I could probably do it a little bit more random. Like I could have them sporadic instead of outside and inside, or I can do top and bottom. Again, to get this started real quick. Oops. Oh, come on. There we go. And get this last tentacle in here. I think that that's going to give us a good look at what we're expecting. This one might need a couple extra stitches. Nah, should be fine. One last little bit here. Oops, sorry. This guy's kind of making me think of the movie Evolution. I don't know if anybody's ever seen that one. It's not that old, but it's not very new. And I don't think it did very well in theaters, but definitely a fun movie. And here we go. Let's kind of clean this up a little bit, kind of move the tentacles into place. Oops, let me go ahead and switch again. All right, so I think that with the more brown on the outside, I think that that's going to look really good two-tone. I think the shape of this is really good. I'm trying to like put it in position so that when I let it go, like that in itself, you can tell. I think that that's going to look really good. And again, I think that that material looks really good too. But I think that that's going to look really nice. I might make it shorter at the bottom. So let's go ahead and compare that to my sketch here. If I make the bottom ones a little bit shorter, so that it's not all the same, restrictions, audio, your live contains themes that some may find uncomfortable and has been restricted. Commercial disclosure and paid marketing. Okay. Submit feedback. Notice is unclear. Decision is unfair and restricted is reasonable. I understand. My live does not contain the mention. Okay, there we go. Yeah, because I'm not talking about anything really weird here. But I think that that kind of landed really close to what we're aiming for. A little bit of an adjustment towards the bottom. I can make the top just a little bit longer, or I can make them all like a little bit, like sew them in so that they wind up being the same length about here. But I think that this would be a good length, so I cut these shorter. Surround the pink ones with the brown ones, and I think it already fills it up pretty well. So like the number of would be good. I could just add brown around the outside. And I think a little slug monster is good. I will just make these a little bit, put these on the top, and I'll make some small, shorter ones to go inside. And I might be able to even use the sewing machine to cluster these up so that I can get the pink ones all in one cluster and then hand stitch that together. Not sure, because it seems kind of weird. But what do you guys think? Does this kind of look like it'll work out pretty well? It's broken. All right, I'll be right back. I'm going to go get some white material so I can sew at least one dot on the back of this so we can see what it looks like. Sorry about that. Okay, so here's the white, real simple. What I am going to do is I'm actually going to get a whole different piece of thread, make the long piece. This is essentially the same thing that I would do for adding tattoos to plushes. It is sometimes not as clean, but what happens is if I applique it, there's a ring of thread, which kind of changes the way it feels, which isn't the worst thing. It might actually work really well. I do that with the mushrooms. All I'm going to do is cut a random shape. Round. There we go. This out of the way. Thread. I will start it with all on the same side. Let me go ahead and turn on the light so maybe you can see better. So it's on the same side. Pull that through, and then between the two strands, like I've been talking about before, get rid of this excess. I'm going to turn that off. Right back through. So now, this is the top. I will make sure the direction of my fuzz goes the same direction as the body. So I remember I did the back of this backwards accidentally when I did the pattern. Again, that's one of those mistakes that I make because it's brand new. But the head is facing the right direction. So I'm going to have the fuzz going backwards. And all I'm going to do is stitch this on. It's essentially the same as a ladder stitch. But I'm going to go slightly into the top material. Here, let me see if I can get a better angle on this so that you can actually see what I'm doing. It's going to go slightly in to the white. Wow, let me change that color again. Hopefully that helps a little bit. All right, so thread comes out, goes into the head, go just a slight stitch in. You can see that I'm not right at the edge. And what will happen is when you pull that tight, it's going to try and fold it flat, fold it this way, which is what you want. You want that edge to tuck in underneath so that you get a smooth transition. I'm trying to do this so you can see the colors are kind of hard because it's white. And then everything else just kind of blaring at the same time. I'm not even sure if it's fuzzy or not. But what winds up happening is you can see right here where I've already stitched, it tucks under, and because this fuzz is the same fuzz, it basically just looks like you changed the color of the fuzz. And I will do this when I'm adding like tattoos to a plush, or when I want stripes or other things like that. In this case, I'm adding dots. I will fold in that corner so I make sure, or the edge of it, so that I make sure that it does what I want it to do. And when I am done, which this won't take too long, you do want to pull it pretty tight as you go. But if you pull it too tight, watch what happens. It starts to bunch up. So you don't want it to be too tight. You want it to be, I guess the phrase would be the appropriate tightness. That's what, every now and then you could always take something like this and tuck it in between your stitches. That is one of the worst things about this. There is a gap between several stitches, but you could always go back around a second time. You could also work hard to do smaller gaps between your stitch. Now, I have found this to be pretty reliable. I've actually done this with several plushes. When I made my electric rat as my first blush, I did this for the cheeks to give it rosy cheeks. And I have since washed that guy, and the cheeks stayed on. It wasn't something that I had to worry about tearing. Yes, in the sense that eventually it might wear out, but that's going to happen with any material that you have and any thread that you have. So the reason I'm saying that is so that you don't feel like you have to worry completely about it. And I'm not sure what lighting is better sometimes. This seems like a good lighting, but I'm really not sure. Again, I just keep tucking in the white to make sure that all I've got on the outside is the fuzzy area. Very shallow stitches directly across to the other piece that I'm attaching it to. And this is the same way that I attach like a leg when I did that earlier, minus the worry about tucking it in. We're getting close to the end, so I'm going to go ahead and try and tuck that in now. The downside is I know that when I pull from one to the other, it's going to wind up untucking it, but maybe I'll get lucky. And this is essentially what I will do when I'm adding all the dots. I will do different sizes, different positions. If you are interested, I would highly suggest with something like this, trying to consider whether or not you like the applique, which is the embroidery stitch where you put the two pieces together and you do a tight zigzag stitch between, where it goes from white to red, white to red. I would use the same color as the inside. So if you're making a black dot, I use black. In this case, a white dot, use white. You can do that and it looks really good. And I've done that with my mushroom fairies. This was a project where I didn't know how any of it was going to look, and I didn't really want to try and do that until after we knew. So that would be why another reason to not worry about applique. But you also might not like the feel of a line of thread being back and forth the whole way. It just creates kind of a border, almost like a framework for it. And it definitely stands out a little bit differently. In this case, now that I'm done, let me get this a little bit closer to where I'm going in at. Now that I am done, I can tie it off. Same way as always, wrap it around the needle, pull tight. Feed this back into the spot where the knot's out. Pull enough to get that knot in. And there you go. It's a real pretty, really simple transition. You might have to get some of that fuzz loose from your stitches. But right now, the way it looks, there is only a slight difference where the material is folded underneath. So yeah, that's what I was going to say. It looks really clean. Thank you, Snoodles. But that's a great way to do something like this when you have the fuzz from one to the other and you want to just add the detail to it. Like I said, that's how I add my tattoos to my plushes when I put a tattoo on their butt or something like that. And it holds up really well. Oops, I can feel this. I think I've got a loose eyeball. There we go. That should fix it. But yeah, when I add the rest of these dots on here, it's going to just look like fuzz to fuzz. I just have to make sure that the fuzz goes the same direction. Just making sure I didn't miss anything else real quick. And I think that in the overall, this is going to be a great looking little mystic mushroom slug. We got the tentacles figured out. I might do some like sketch designs for maybe possible different versions of feet, but I think these feet are great. I think it makes it look like something that if it was walking towards you, it would like squish, as it came at you. And then the tentacles are both cute and potentially menacing. Yes, I will add the rest around it as well. I may try and find an easier way to attach the tentacles, because otherwise it's going to be hand stitching all of these, and that's going to be a long process. So that's going to be like something that adds a whole lot to doing this. But even that's not the worst thing. The rest of this is all sewn together really nicely. I think the ears came together pretty good. I can still stuff them up, but the way that they are set, they can sit, they hang down, they stick out. So they look pretty much exactly like my sketch did. I think this is a lot of fun. I think this turned out really well. What do you guys think? Any thoughts on anything that needs to be tried? And remember, I'm going to be doing other types of mushrooms too. So this will be something I could take some suggestions or requests for what other types of mushrooms to make. But this turned out pretty decent. I'm really happy the way it turned out. I am thrilled that this is something that came from just a sketch, literally starting from here to that. And by next week, I hope to have finished this and also put on a couple of like videos so you can see what it looks like in the round and in the complete. I think that'll be a lot of fun. My restriction is still showing. Current live ended, live visibility restricted for 10 minutes. Okay, so maybe I'm not restricted. I don't know. Oh, no, okay. I looked at it just in time. So basically, starting from here, working to here, we got a lot of input and help from you guys as we were going through this. Well, a few people. I'm not exactly sure who was or wasn't here. Turned out with this cute little plush. Yes, it's still a little unfinished, but that was a whole lot of tentacle work to do. And I think that if I do maybe, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 more tentacles, that should be all. So like 8 for the outside and 6 on the inside. The 2 eyes, I can change up and do multiple eyes or big eyes in the future. When I get all the dots sewn on, I think that that'll help out, make it look more like a mushroom. But I hope some of you had some fun. I hope you stuck around for long enough to help to see that I need some help with ideas for what I can do for giveaways and what I can do for next week. Please send me a message if you have an idea. Otherwise, I'm going to post some stuff from my book, a few different things. We can see what people like the most. Maybe there's a few ideas that I can double check to see what people think, and I can turn these into plushes. And then maybe I can chain it up. I can make some plush chains, and we can wrap somebody up in plush chains. I've got monsters. I've got cute little animals, versions of animals. Let's see, what else do I have? I thought it'd be neat to make this kind of, it's a bug. This is based off of a real bug. It uses logs to create a shell or house or protection. These were Kraken ideas. I was going to use these to make a stuffed Kraken. Rock monsters, bugs. I think these are from a game, so I had to double check to make sure. Sometimes what I draw is literally what inspired me, and sometimes I draw the idea, but I have to make sure because I never want to accidentally steal somebody's stuff. Some of these things I can make with some different colored material that I've got. I've got some tie-dye, some pinks. I can make something demonic. I can make something cutesy. These little guys can go a long way. I can do a lot of different things with them, different ears, different eyes, make a whole series of them. And if I don't get any ideas, that's probably what I'll do. I'll probably pick one of these and just kind of make a couple of them as something fun and that I could add to based on what people think. And maybe I'll just start adding to my plushes ideas later. I even had these ideas for like dead cats. So they go through their 9 lives. So like this one's run over, but if I do it right, it can be used as a pillow, for a headrest. You can put your head there and it'll cradle your head. Turn this into a blanket maybe, like a big flattened out cat. But these are some of the ideas that I've had so far. This is what we're working on today. This is where it landed, which is pretty darn close to my sketch. And I hope you guys had some fun. I'm going to go ahead and go. This is a good time to end it now that we got all the things put together. And I will try and finish this later and come up with a couple more mushrooms. I hope you had some fun. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. You have a great night.